Hi, this is Trinesha Cottrell, and today I wanted to talk about you ain't gotta lie. So I know that is improper English at its best. And also, what made me want to call this You Ain't Gotta Lie is because, I was listening to this sermon and the pastor said that the truth shall set you free. And he really had me thinking about what do you think a lie does if the truth sets you free? A lie can keep you captive. It can keep you in the fetters. And for those of you who don't know what a fetter is, it is shackles that are on your arms, like to house chains and stuff. It keeps you in bondage. It keeps you chained up. And so fetter is Fetter, but it's pronounced Feder. So sometimes you'll hear me say fetter, like, and I'll try to say how it is pronounced and not how it's spelled. And so just for that clarification, so we can get that cleared up. And so I took a couple notes, of course, like always. So I'm always writing and everything else. And so man, I wrote a lot today. Mm-mm-mm. So when he was talking about different lies, one of the things that really came to mind besides the fetters is how sometimes when we're in life and we're going through a spiritual battle or a spiritual warfare, then the adversary can tell us all of these lies. He will tell us we're not good enough. He will tell us we're not smart enough. He will tell us that we can't do this, we can't do that, that nobody's going to love us, that nobody will care. And he just continuously keeps trying to make us feel as if we are not good enough, or as if we aren't who God said that we are, or we aren't the things that God created us to be. But we are everything that God created us to be, and we have to always remember that. And so when I talked about releasing the fetters, it made me think of releasing the negativity, releasing the toxicity, the unforgivingness, the guilt, the shame, letting go and releasing the shackles so that the truth can set us free. And I had a conversation with someone recently, and we were talking about how the adversary will try to tell us things to make us feel a certain type of way, and it's all lies. And I said, yes, it is all lies. And they also said that it was something else as well. And we kind of got into like this like conversation. It wasn't like a disagree. I guess I could say it was a disagreement. It wasn't like an argument, but it was a disagreement on what the adversary does. And so I think I said something like he gives us facts. And then because it's a fact, we in turn start to believe it as if it's the truth, but it's really a lie. And they said, I don't know if it's a fact. And I said, let me give you an example. I said, like the adversary would say something like, oh, you're single. He'll just try to rub it in your face. You're single, and that's true. I am single. The person that he could be talking about is single. That's a fact, but it's not the truth. Like he will take a fact and twist it and manipulate it into the way that he wants it to be presented so that he can make you feel insecure, so he can make you feel at lack of something, but you aren't at lack of anything because you're everything that God created you to be. So on top of saying I'm single, which is a fact, he will say things like, you're always going to be alone. No one is ever going to treat you the right way. You're always going to be mistreated. You're always going to be like this. You're always going to be in this situation. You're never going to find someone that's going to treat you the right way. You're never going to be good enough, blah, 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 good enough, pretty enough, thin enough, big enough. Whatever the thing is that the adversary tries to add on to the things that he tries to make you feel insecure about or make you feel as if you're not who God created you to be, he will add that on to a fact. And so I think that is the thing that makes it harder for us to release the fetters. Because when someone says something that has a fact in it, sometimes it's harder to believe the truth. Sometimes it's harder to believe in the things that are actual reality because the adversary will twist it into something that's not. And so when he says things like, you're single, that's a fact. I'm single. But when he adds on, you will always be single. That's not what God said. That's a lie. He is the father of lies. All he can do is lie. He can't even tell the truth if his life depended on it. And so sometimes we forget that. And what he will do is he will try to go first in our mind. And I just learned like last week where spiritual warfare comes from, because I always knew what spiritual warfare was. And it is so prominent in today's time. It's ridiculous. It's like every time you listen to something religious, they're talking about spiritual warfare. And it's just because it's rapid today for some reason. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's because it's movement of, you know, soldiers in the army of the Lord is coming up. I don't know what it is, but it's like, HE double hockey sticks is real nervous right now because a lot of people are just ready to be about that God life. You know what I'm saying? And so I feel like if it wasn't something for it to worry about, for them to worry about, then it wouldn't be any problems. We can continue in our life without any disruption. So obviously we're doing something right. And so when I was going to say spiritual warfare comes from your mind. So I literally just learned that. What happens is you have the fact that comes in, followed by a whole bunch of lies. And it's the thing, like it comes to steal, kill, and destroy your spirit. It literally comes in to make you feel like you're not who God said you are. It comes in to make you feel inadequate, to make you feel unworthy, to make you feel like you have to be stuck. But God never intended for you to stay in one place so long. Just like when Moses freed the people from Pharaoh, he never intended for them to go on a journey that was that long. They weren't even supposed to be there that long. But it was because of the warfare. It was because they were getting in their own way that the journey had to be longer than it was. God intends for our journey to be not swift, but for our journey to be intentional and to not be long winded. He intends for us to take every single lesson, everything that we go through is something to build us, to move us on to the next step of our journey. It's not to hold us back. It's not to make us stagnant. God would never intend for us to be stagnant. He would want us to grow and evolve, especially in our relationship with Him. And so sometimes we forget that because we really feel like, well, I got to take time. Like I used to always make this excuse. I can't be ready now because I'm not healed. And I felt like I was healed at one point, and I still had some work to do. And I still always will have work to do on myself because I'm never going to be perfect. Only God is perfect. And also, I know that it's important for me to know and be real with myself and not just make up excuses not to just be with people. Like if I'm ready, I need to act like I'm ready. I need to not push people away. I need to not put up barriers. And it's funny because I learned something recently as well. Like it's okay to guard your heart, but don't put up a wall. And when I was spending some time with God, He was telling me this is exactly what you've been doing. Like it's okay to protect your heart at all costs. That's biblical. That's what I've been telling you. But what you've been doing isn't protecting your heart. It's putting up a barrier. You're putting up a barrier, a wall to keep everybody out. So not even the right person could come in if they even came along. And when he said it, I at first immediately I wanted to be defensive. I wanted to be like, "Oh no, what? I don't do that." But then I was like, "This is God. God knows me more than I know myself. He knows every hair on my head. Like obviously He knows what I'm doing." And I had to really do some self-reflection and understand like God's right. I really was putting up a barrier between myself and others. I really was pushing people away. And I knew I had a problem pushing people away, but I lying to myself was like, I have to guard my heart at all costs. This is how some religious people get for real, because we'll be like, oh, but even the Bible says you got to protect your heart at all costs. But I wasn't protecting my heart. I was putting up a barrier. I was letting the wrong people out. I was letting and keeping the wrong and the right people out. I was not allowing anything to get in, not even the blessings. And God was saying a lot of blessings are attached to some of the people that need to be a part of your life. If you keep on pushing people away, I'm not going to be able to give you the blessings I have for you. What good is it for you to tithe, to give an offering, to sow into all these people if not one person can sow into you because they can't get close enough, you know? And, God really talks to me like that. And I got to hear it like that because I need somebody to be about it. You know what I'm saying? And so whenever someone is being real with me, I want them to be upfront and honest. I don't like for people to beat around the bush. I like a straight shooter all day, every day. And so when people are talking to me, sometimes they'll say things and they'll be like, oh, I don't want to say it. And then it comes out like this. Listen, if I get offended, I'll let you know straight up. Like, I'm going to tell you for real. And I'm going to say it in the most polite way I could possibly say it. And if I'm bothered by something, if I feel a certain type of way, every person around me is going to know it. And I don't just go and be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm really like, hey, when you said this, I would appreciate you don't say this anymore. Like, this is not something that I'm okay with at all. And I don't like raise my voice. I don't turn it into a whole big thing. Either they hear me or they don't. Either they care about me or they don't. And most of the time, some people will feel a certain type of way and they'll take a moment and they'll be like, oh yeah, okay, well, I'm glad you told me because I would rather know than for you to pretend like you're okay with it when you're not. And I'm like, I really appreciate you saying that because, you know this really did make me feel this way. And if we are growing in our relationship, if we are growing in our friendship, if we are people that are going to be a part of each other's lives and we're going to work together, I want to make sure that the communication is one of the most like clear things. I want to make sure it's clear communication that it is cut and dry to the point, like, and there's no miscommunication. There's nothing that somebody's going to take the wrong way. We know, like, hey, if this is going on, I'm going straight to this person. It's funny because I have been trying to grow in just my whole spiritual maturity in itself. Because sometimes when you're growing your religion, when you're being different, when you're being trying to become a better person, um, there will be some of the things that you used to do that pop back up. It could be an ex. It could be maybe you're a gossiper. Maybe you're a gambler. Maybe you're, lustful. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is whenever you try to grow in your religion, you try to grow in spirituality, that thing will come back up. And so I had a test recently and I passed it. I had like 3 tests in a row and I was like, boom, 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 bam. I was really feeling it. I was like, uh-oh. And then the spiritual warfare came I mean, it was so hard. You don't even understand. Like, I was, how they say you celebrate too soon? I was like really about to do one of these. And then it was like, I was like, oh. I was like, if I had pearls on my neck instead of my wrist, I would have been clutching my pearls. Like, the spiritual warfare was so deep. Like, it was real deep. I was like, oh my gosh, like, you see me now, and I'm like, I'm good. But, whew, what was it, about 4 or 5 hours ago? I was really feeling it. I was just like, the adversary was playing so hard on my past insecurities, on things that didn't work out in my life like I wanted them to. I mean, there were so many things in my life that the adversary was just making me. Sorry, I have something right here. I don't know what that is. I guess it's just a shadow. Okay, we're good. And so the adversary was just going so hard on me. He was just like, you're this, you're that, you're this, you're that. And when I would catch my breath, when I would try to say something inspirational, he'd be like, what's the point? Why are you even doing it? Why are you even trying? Why even do this? I mean, he was coming at me hard. Every single cynical thing, every negative thought that you could think about yourself came rushing into my mind so fast. And it was so hard that I literally felt tears well up in my eyes, and I felt like I just couldn't push the thoughts out of my mind. It was so powerful. And I was about to say, like, thank you, God. And before I could say thank you, God, it was like another rush of a whole bunch of emotions, and another rush of negativity, another rush of cynicism, just flooding my mind. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. It was crazy. And I felt so weak in this moment. And I was like, I couldn't, like, it was so, the psychological, spiritual attack was so strong. I mean, it lasted for a good 35, 40 minutes, for real. I want to say it probably was a good, 35, 40 minutes. And every time I was about to call on God, every time I was about to say something, I could just feel a flood of things. And it was just like, why are you even trying? Why are you even doing this? Why are you even doing that? Nobody cares about this. Nobody cares about that. Nobody's going to listen to this. Nobody's going to listen to that. You're not this. You're not that. But this happened and that happened. And in the past, you didn't get this and you didn't get that. And oh, God said he's going to give you the desires of your heart, but you really desired this thing and God never gave it to you. I mean, it was just back to back to back I mean, it was so crazy. Like, oh, I wish I could explain it the way that I felt it. It felt like my mind was taking over my body. Like, I didn't even want to do anything. I just wanted to stop. I didn't want to, I mean, I just wanted whatever was happening, like the torment, to stop. It was so bad. It was really, really bad. I literally, like, when I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. I could barely, I really was like, I couldn't pull the car over. I couldn't stop. I mean, tears in my eyes. I was just feeling so bad mentally. And I hadn't felt that bad in a long time. Like, I've been sad about stuff and things haven't went my way and everything. And I had that one moment on the video where I was like, oh my gosh, this happened. And I really was in my feelings about it. But I was in my feelings. That was more just like I needed to feel my feelings and then let that go. And then I felt everything that was happening around me at once. This was like every insecurity I felt from the time that the adversary had the first attack on me that I could ever remember, to the time that, someone left my life, to the time that the 15-year relationship didn't work out, to the time that I made a mistake doing something else, to the time that, this recent thing happened, to family members, to friends, to every single negative thing, anything that any person had ever said to me that was negative came at me at one time. Anything I ever thought about myself, anything that made me feel some type of way that I wasn't feeling my best about, like every single thing at one time hit my mind. And in my body, I felt weak. I felt like, I don't know, God. I mean, I wanted to call on God and I couldn't. It was capturing me. It was literally suffocating me. It felt like I felt paralyzed in that moment. I don't know how to explain it. And when I started crying, I was just like, oh my gosh. Like, I really haven't felt that horrible about myself or that like sad or in that dark, dark space in a really long time. And I just didn't know how to take it. I was like, I went through this. I've already gotten over this. I've done all of these things. I've did the work. I've already moved past this. What is happening right now? Like, I couldn't understand why it was so strong. I just couldn't understand. And I was like, well, maybe God is this. Maybe it's because of this. Maybe I did something wrong. I just started thinking of all these things because of the cynicism. And then I felt something in the inside of my spirit. This is what I tell myself whenever the adversary tries to attack me spiritually. And it always helps. It always like feeds that power that God put on the inside of me. And I really had a moment and I was like, if the adversary is coming this hard, God has something wonderful planned for my life. I mean, it is beyond anything I could ever imagine, anything I could ever think, anything that I have ever seen in my life. Whatever God is about to do for me is impossible. Because why else would the adversary be working so hard to break me in this moment? And I don't know where the strength came from, but the spiritual attack, like all of the stuff that was on my mind just started fleeing. And I was like, God, I need you. Like, in that moment, I was like, God, I need you. And and it was just like I needed to believe in myself, because that's the only way the adversary can come and try to attack you and start with spiritual warfare. And when I started to think about all of the possibilities that God has for my life, all of the things that he probably wants to give me, all of the things he wants to bless me with, all of the things that he's brought me through so far, all of the things that have happened in my life, everything that I didn't think I was going to make it through, but God pulled me through anyways. Everything that I thought I was too weak to ever be able to make it through, God was my strength and my weakness. And he showed me that I could be stronger than I ever thought that I could be in my entire life. And I remember that. I remembered that I'm stronger than I think that I was. I never even would have thought that I could ever make it through half of the things I went through in my life. And the only reason it was possible was because of God. God is the only reason while I'm still here, why I am still here. Oh, something about the name Jesus. It really is. And when I called on God, it was just like, whew, like this over, like I felt like the power inside of me come out. But when I said God, it was like everything, every thought, every, like the feeling of my body feeling paralyzed, everything just felt like it released off my body, my mind, body, and soul. It felt like my spirit was awakened or something. I don't know how to describe it, but it was really just like, wow. Like God, when I said God, the spirit, like all of the negative stuff knew it couldn't withstand God. It knew it was no match for my God, you know? It knew it was no way, because no weapon formed against me could ever prosper, seen or unseen. And oof, I mean, when God got in there, it was just like, the weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders. I know I say that a lot in these videos, but I don't know how else to describe it. It felt like the burdens of my entire life were on my shoulders. And then when I called on the name of God, when I called on Jesus, everything, everything that was so small, everything that I thought was so big turned this big in that moment. It was like something I could just do like this to get rid of, you know? Like, yes, I'm single and I'm also going to be with my kingdom spouse. Yes, I was bullied, but I'm no longer anybody's punching bag or anybody's, whatever, victim. I'm a victor, not a victim. You know, I went through a lot of things in my life and they didn't turn out the way that I wanted them to, but thank God they didn't turn out the way that I wanted them to, because nobody writes a story like God's. You know, everything in my life that I planned, I didn't get, but I got everything that I needed. You know, every single cynical thing that the adversary to try to make you believe is nothing compared to God's truth and God's promises for your life. So always remember that whenever you are going through a spiritual warfare, whenever things don't seem to be going your way, it's not supposed to go your way, it's supposed to go God's way. Dig deep, call on God, and remember that God is in control. This is not your life. This is the life that God gave you. You don't just have to have everything that you want. If God gave me the things that I want, I would be in a lot of trouble, because I'd be I'd be living a whole nother life. I might be I don't want to say it and offend anybody, but it would be night and day. Like, I would not be standing here in a place that provides shelter for me, with food that I get to eat, with clothes on my back, with a sound mind, with peace and joy that I can't even explain. I wouldn't be able to have all of the people that are a part of my life and the people that are removed, thank God, for the right reasons. I would literally probably be in a group of people who were all wrong for me, who all wanted to see me fail, in the wrong relationship with somebody who was never going to treat me the way that God intended for me to be treated. Living somewhere where I don't even know who I am or why I'm there. I would probably be, it would just be totally different. Even if I had the same life and God wasn't in it, it would not be worth it. Because that peace that God gives me, that joy that God gives me, is nothing compared to, just feeling unsettled, feeling like I'm always missing something. That's what I felt like without God. I felt like empty. I really felt like something wasn't there. Something that was important wasn't there. Like I needed to fill the hole with something, but I couldn't find anything. There was no person, place, or thing that could ever fill the place of God, no matter how hard I tried in the past. And then when I rededicated my life to God, it was just like I don't want to sound corny or anything, but it was like the sun was brighter, the birds were chirping, and I actually enjoyed the sound of the birds. It wasn't just like hush that noise up. It was just like, oh, this was so cute. The flowers were just smelling so good and looking so beautiful. Like instead of me walking and be like, oh, I gotta walk this far, it was like, oh, I get to walk. Yes, all my legs that God gave me. Like I don't know how to describe it, but everything flipped, and it didn't feel like a burden. It felt like a blessing. It didn't feel like a hindrance. It felt like a help. It didn't feel like fear. It felt like faith. It didn't feel like hopelessness. It felt like hope. And it didn't feel like it was impossible. It felt like everything was possible. So, in conclusion, when it comes to lies, you ain't gotta lie. You don't have to listen to the adversary's lies that he has for your life. Trust God. Trust in everything that he's told you that he has for you in your life. Believe in his promises. Remember whose you are and who you are. Remember God created you for a purpose. And if the adversary is ever working overtime to try to break you, it's because God is building something inside of you that is unstoppable.